I can safely say I have never interviewed a ventriloquist before. So
Wow, there's always a first.
I wasn't sure if I was getting you or the puppet, to be honest, but it
You
was
might, you might get both before it's over. So
okay.
there's always
Okay.
one around the corner.
I think the first thing I wanted to ask you is how do you get into something like ventriloquism? Because it is quite a niche.
Yes, well, I was 12 years old back in 1987. There was no internet. So how do you learn to be a ventriloquist when there's no internet? Well, because I'm ancient, I was very lucky because there was a ventriloquist on a TV talent show called New Faces. It was the Britain's Got Talent of the 80s.
Hmm.
And there was a ventriloquist that lived down the road from me. And the only reason I watched it with my family was because he lived locally, really. So we watched it and he won the grand final that night. And I was mesmerized, not only because he won the show, but because of what he was doing. I'd never seen a ventriloquist knowing what a ventriloquist was. And then I realized it was him making the dummy talk. So I was fascinated. So 2 days after that show, which he won, I knocked on his front door because my best friend at school lived opposite him. And I asked him if he'd teach me. So he said, go away and get a book that's about to come out. It's called Got the Gear by Ray Allen, which was a prominent ventriloquist at that time. Ray Allen was one of the best. He had a character called Lord Charles. He talk like this. He's so drunk. You know.
I
Yeah, he
think
was
I've seen clips.
really, yeah, you would have done. If you start going down the rabbit hole with ventriloquists on YouTube, we're everywhere, and you see some great ones like Ray Allen, Keith Harrison, Orville. When I started, they were always on TV and radio sometimes, which will make your listeners laugh. But it was brilliant because I knocked on his door. I got that book for Christmas. A few weeks later, I went back and I said I had a dummy. I had the book. I'd learnt the book, and he said, right, show me what you can do. And my lips weren't moving, and he was so impressed. I ended up roadieing for him for about 10 years,
Oh wow.
and that was next year. There will be 40 years since we met and since I started. So I was 12. I'm 52 next year. I'm good at maths, and I was literally just before I came on this call. Me and him were talking. We're best friends today, godfather to each other's kids. Ventriloquism as a community around the world is a very close knit, you know, friendship. There's so many ventriloquists that are friends, and it's like magicians, or musicians and comedians hang out, and you get the same with ventriloquists worldwide. So Jimmy Tamley, his name was. He taught me. I roadied, and that's it really. It's like inspiration. But these days, it's Britain's Got Talent,
Yeah.
America's Got Talent, and YouTube, or you'll see Jeff Dunham touring the world. Jeff Dunham's the most famous, successful ventriloquist of all time. He has inspired, loads and loads of younger generations. So so really, it's TikTok. TikTok last year in 2025, it reached 1 billion hits for ventriloquism. So people that
Really?
in ventriloquist because they'd seen one on America's Got Talent, or I'll say Britain's Got Talent because I was in the finals. Uh, it's getting higher and higher and more popular once again because it always goes around in fashions. It
Yeah.
was out of fashion towards the end of the 80s and in the 90s, and it's starting to come back again, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
I finished writing a book, which I'm aiming to publish in 2027 on my 40th anniversary of playing with dolls and talking to myself. So it's a amalgamation of all of those ventriloquists from the music hall to the 80s TV variety up until Instagram and TikTok to the present day, and it covers any ventriloquist you would have heard of.
So there's a few avenues that I want to pinpoint on a few bits that you've said there. So I'm just gonna backtrack to where it all began. So really you grew up with ventriloquism when you think about it. So did you find that that was almost your way of understanding the world when you were sort of in your teens and becoming an adult? And did you find that your puppet almost became parts of yourself that you weren't quite sure who that was yet?
I was a very shy kid. You've hit the nail on the head because I was shy. You'll find a lot of puppeteers or ventriloquists were kind of introverted, and I was hiding behind the puppets, and my parents couldn't believe I was doing a school show for my assembly, 150 kids. I couldn't believe I was doing it. I was 12 years old and just been doing it about 6 months, and they said, "You want to do a show for us?" I did a 10-minute show, and all these kids were laughing at me. I thought, wow, I'm doing this. And then Jimmy, who helped me, he helped me to do it for work experience as well. So I planned when I was 15, I planned, it was about 45 shows in 2 weeks, and I did schools, sort of care homes and things, and that was brilliant because it gave me the confidence again. I was so shy, but it gave me the avenue to actually speak out and stand on stage and say, this is now who I am, and but I'm doing it through my right hand or my left hand, doing the puppets. Hey, Chiana, how you doing, Chiana? Nice to see you. Goodbye, bye, bye. Yeah, so it was a talent that firstly I didn't know I had until I started learning. And then when I started to be accepted around the school, I was the cool kid with the puppet, not with the football. I was always last to be picked to the football team, but I was standing there, talking to myself anyway, so I was used to it. It was something different. There weren't many ventriloquists around. There was none in my school, none in my hometown apart from Jimmy. So there was now two ventriloquists in Basingstoke. So I was very lucky to have him around the corner. There was no YouTube. There was books in the library in Basingstoke. I'm originally from Basingstoke in Hampshire. So I'd always go to the library, get a book out, and then when it ran out, I'd take it in and then queue and get the same book out and take it back home again, and until I'd finished reading it over and over again. And so now, sort of 40 years later, I'm about to release my own book, Ventriloquist. I changed the I to an E because it's been a quest really for the last 40 years.
Do you find that each of your puppets channels a different personality, or do they all sort of have the same essence of you within them?
They can in a way. There's a part of me that'd like to be a stand-up comedian, but I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm not very good at remembering lines. I was in pantomime in Southend with Rylan and Ross King last Christmas,
Yeah.
but I was quite impressed. There was a certain routine that I did learn, but yeah, I'd like to be a stand-up comedian, but I put that through my characters. So Arthur Lager is my main character. He's a very cheeky character, Arthur. He's an old man. He's like 82. He's been 82 for 20 years, but it's his role. And he's very stand-up comedian, really. So I'm channeling what I wanted to be through that puppet. I've got a skunk puppet called Pongo. He's very cheeky. I've always been a cheeky little kid, really, answering back to my parents and even my teachers. I got told off for doing that and mimicking my teachers. So Pongo gets the cheeky side. Arthur Lagers gets the naughty stand-up comedian side. I've got a little character called Chi Chi. I'm still working on a little dog puppet called Chi Chi. He's been in the act for about 10 years. He's been in and out the act, but I'm rewriting him back in. He's the sensitive side, and Chi Chi is the really cute, sort of connecting with the world of children. If I was going to have a children's TV show, it would be Chi Chi's World. So he's the little cute section that will get the kids on your side. Pongo will get the family on your side, and Arthalaga gets the parents and the grandparents on their side. And all the jokes will go over the kids' heads, but they'll get the visual side of the characters. So yeah, there is a different part of me really that I channel through those characters. It's a very fascinating thing I've never really thought about until Chiana asked me.
I
Yeah.
wonder if there's anyone that you've inspired that you know of that actually has come out of their shell as a result of seeing you perform or actually sort of channeling that child through them, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, it's an interesting question. I do Butlins holiday parks and I
I
do
love Butlins.
pantomime. Yeah, the Butlins is amazing, and you'd be a great Redco if you fancy a season there. I think so. When I do Butlins, there's kids sat there with puppets in the front row. You only usually get one, maybe two, sat in there with puppet, and they're waving them. And sometimes in Butlins, I would, or if I'm doing my own theatre show,
Yeah.
like the Palace Theatre coming up, I would, if they're sat in the front, I will get them out when I'm doing my stand up. I'll get the kid up and ask them to do a little bit. I say, can you talk without moving your lips? What's your puppet called? I will give them that 5 minutes of little bit of fame in my show
Yeah.
because I had that done to me when I was a kid. I went to see a ventriloquist called Ron Lucas. He had an American who came over in the 90s
Mm.
and he had a TV show and I was in the studio audience and he knew I was there and he said, well, I hear we have a young ventriloquist in the audience. You want to come up and do something? So I did my hand. A B B C D E F G H I J K L N N R T Q R S T U V W X Y Z. See ya, see ya. I did the alphabet in front of him and the whole TV studio audience. It wasn't being recorded at that time. It was off camera, but they went crazy and because they knew that I was a budding ventriloquist inspired by Ron Lucas. So when I get kids in the audience, I know that they won't forget what I'm about to do. So I would invite them up onto the stage if they're confident enough to get up. I'll give them the microphone and say, "Can you just do a little song, do the alphabet, tell us a joke, or just say your name through the puppet?" And they'll get a big cheer. And that's happened probably about 5 times
That's lovely.
in my career because sometimes the kids won't get up; they're a bit too shy. But it can also be affiliated with autism as well. You get kids that are quite shy
Mm,
that have got autism or they've got learning difficulties, and puppets are always a great communication tool for
mm.
that. And next year, I'm hosting for my anniversary. I'm hosting a ventriloquist convention in Hampshire, and I'm trying to source somebody to do a lecture on autism and puppets and learning difficulties and why it works, why they will communicate through the puppet, or they won't listen to the adult. But if you get a puppet,
Mm.
their eye, their face lights up, and so I really want to feature that in the convention because it's quite prevalent, especially in these day and ages. So yeah, it's really nice to be inspired and to inspire. So I'm passing it on, and I feature that quite a lot in my book as well. I've talked to there's probably about 15 to 20 kids that I've helped over the years. That some of them are still doing it. Sorry, some of them are still doing it. A few of them have give up. Some have gone in different directions. They're jugglers or magicians. But there's one ventriloquist called Max Fulham who I saw as a very young lad. He's like 14, and I saw the potential in him when I put him on in a talent show 12 years ago, I think. And now he's one of the most premier ventriloquists in the UK. Max Fulham. He's all over Instagram, TikTok, pantomimes, comedy clubs, and everything. So you just never know if you're going to find a little nugget. You just push him along, give him a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of help, and then one day I might be in his book. you know, it's and Max is a great kid. We're in touch, and he's doing Edinburgh Festival.
Mm.
So, even if I did inspire him in the early days, which I'm proudly to say that he says that I did in some of my work, it's so nice that he's doing Edinburgh Festival. He's done television and yeah, it's passing it forward, Chiana. Do you know what I mean? It's amazing to pass an art forward that was supposed to be dying out,
Mm.
but the younger generation has picked it up and they're running with it, and we're updating it, keeping it modern and fun. And if you do see a ventriloquist on the bill, it might not be what you like to do. When I do cruise ships, I was on a cruise ship last week. I heard some passengers say that they don't want to go see a ventriloquist, they don't like it, and they went to it and they come up to me and say we weren't going to come, and it was the best thing we saw all week. We had such a laugh because it's got to be a comedy ventriloquist. You can't just have a ventriloquist talking without moving their lips. That's not funny. You got to make these people laugh. So we each the characters have their different routines, and I go out there really trying to be a stand-up comedian, but with a puppet. It's what we do, and you can make people's night. Just by I think we do need to laugh these days as well. And yeah, and obviously hospital radio, we need to cheer people up. Laughter's the best medicine. And so,
Exactly.
if you hear a little bit of a couple of jokes or a humorous story, it brightens up someone's day, if you, and it's really nice to share that within my work.
Yeah, no, that is lovely. And I think that's the thing that I enjoy on a smaller scale is actually just being able to put a smile on. If it's one person's face, then I've done my job. When you were younger, would you have ever thought that every day of your life you would be getting to make people smile?
I didn't know how long it was going to take me to become a professional ventriloquist. So I said when I left school, I've been doing it for 3 years, and I was like 15. I did it for work experience. I thought, right, I'm going to go and tour the world now as a ventriloquist. I spoke to Jimmy, who taught me when I was a kid, and he went, I think you should go to college. I thought, oh, he's trying to put me off. I'm competition. But no, he was right. And I'm so glad that I listened to him because I went and I got educated a bit more, but I started to work in the theatre that we had in our school, the Queen
Oh,
Mary's College, and I started to do spotlight for comedians. There was a ventriloquist that came as well, and that year was one of my favourite years in school. So I'm so glad I hung on and did a year in college, and then I started to do holiday parks, as a resident. I got to do my act. And so 17 onwards, I
Yeah.
worked the next 5 years working in holiday resorts in Benidorm, Cyprus, the Isle of Wight, Blackpool. And I'd done all these seasons and turned professional age 22. So it built up the way it was supposed to build up. But I had no idea I was going to be taught, going around the world and going on Britain's Got Talent was crazy. But I had two really big audiences, 13 million people on two Saturday consecutive nights. It was fantastic because that opened a lot of doors. That got me jobs in America.
Hmm.
So I taught with the Osmonds in America because of that. I worked at the Albert Hall with Kenny G, saxophonist,
Yeah.
famous guy, and that was fantastic. I told some of your lovely listeners will know of Ken Dodd, one of the greatest comedians from Liverpool that the UK has ever produced, and he was a ventriloquist. I taught with Ken Dodd for 6 years, and that was only two shows we could fit in. You won't be laughing, but they'll get that because he used to go on for like 6 hours a night. He'd do really long shows.
So I've got to ask you because you brought it up. Britain's Got Talent. Tell me
Yeah,
everything.
I was 37 when I done Britain's Got Talent, and it's probably some of the best TV I've ever done. Really, I've done some small bits since then, but it was my biggest showcase. I turned it down for 6 years. So when it started, I turned it down, and then 5 years after that, I turned it down every year because researchers they email your website and ask you to do it. And I was always working, so I could never really get the time off. You need 2 or 3 months off to do that show because they say you have to be available for, and I couldn't do that because I was feeding my family. But we just had a little baby girl, and I just come out of pantomime. I did pantomime with Anne Widdecombe and Craig Revel Horwood in High Wycombe in Surrey, and I had great panto come out, and we just had our baby, so she's a few months old. Britain's Got Talent called, and they said, "Would you come and audition at the London Palladium next week? If you get on it and win it, you'll be on the Royal Variety Show this Christmas." And the London Palladium, the Royal Variety Show, they're dream venues. So I did it. I drove into London. I had an amazing audition. I did 10 minutes on the audition at the Palladium, and they cut it all down when it went out on TV. They showed 20 seconds. So that was very sad, really, that they didn't feature me. But when I got on the live shows, I got the call to say I was coming on the live shows. So I got to semi-finals, and it's my wife's idea to get a Simon Cowell puppet made up. So I got a
Brilliant.
puppet I already had, recycled into Simon, and I got him up, and I took him out at the end of the show. And if you've seen the YouTube clip on Britain's Got Talent, my semi-finals, you see me with a Simon Cowell, and it brought the house down. Simon loved it. The second week, they asked me if I had another celebrity puppet, like one of the judges. I said, it takes months to make these I don't make them. I've got makers, but they cost a couple of £1,000s. And I said, it's not really going to be possible because, and they said, well, can you get a David Walliams puppet made up or Amanda? I said, wouldn't it be funny if I had Sunita made up? So they were, oh, that would be good. So they called me back a minute later. The producer said, yes, we love it. We'll invite Sunita to the finals. So she'll be sat behind Simon. So I had a Sunita puppet made in 3 days. My puppet maker, Peter Pullen, he's a legend. He made Orville the Duck. He made all of my characters. And he made the Sunita. So I had Simon Cowell and Sunita in the final. And it went the way it did. I came fourth in the finals in the end. It was a brilliant moment. Sunita loved it. Simon Cowell loved it. And that's really where it took off. I was a bit of a household name for a while, for a few weeks. So I just jumped at everything. I did a UK tour, and that's when I first came to Southend to do the Palace Theatre, and I've not been back since. So I'm really looking forward to coming back at the
So
end of
you're
this month.
back again in literally a week or so, aren't you? You're back at
Yes,
Palace.
31st of May. So it's a Sunday. It's the end of the school holidays, the half term. And it's at 3 o'clock. We're doing it in the afternoon this time. So people can still get to bed, go to school, get to bed, go to work the next day, get on the M25, whatever you need to do. But but because I had such a great time in Southend at the Cliffs Pavilion with Rylan and Ross King, we had such a brilliant time at Cinderella. I just wanted to come back. So I said to the people there, I said, I'll be happy to do the Palace Theatre if we can go for that. So we're doing the Palace Theatre, and I'm bringing back my support that supported me the first time round. Richard Griffin, He's called the Unspeakable Magician. So he does his magic, his comedy magic, and some illusions. And it's a full 2 hour variety show. I'll do share the first half with Richard, and I do the whole of the second half. Bring out all my characters. There's audience participation. It's just the whole family sat together, you know.
I would like to come and experience it, to be honest. I think, especially having spoken to you as well, I feel like it's given me a new perspective on ventriloquism, and I think it's opened my eyes a little bit as well, especially to the impact it can have on people.
Yeah, Chiana, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, time is of the essence. And you're cooking. I'm cooking. He's cooking. I'm cooking. The dad is cooking.
And who is this?
This is, what's your name? Arthur. Well, I've got a character called Arthur Lager, but I produced a show just as lockdown happened called Life in the a day in the a life in the day of Arthur Lager. It was his whole life in a day. So he was an 8 year old, a 20 year old, that's you. Then he was a 40, 60, and then 82 year old. So I had like five puppets throughout the whole 1 hour show. And it was his life story. Yeah, so uh-huh. And this is the 23 year old, and he was brought up in Liverpool. Used to hang out with the Beatles. The Beatles. Do you know the Beatles, Chiana?
Do you know he's a little bit creepy.
He's a
Sorry,
don't
Arthur.
sleep. There you have sleep. There are some creepy characters, but I'm very known for using really sweet, fluffy characters. You know, they're like Muppets. You know, but
Okay.
there are more creepier characters and stuff. That's
Like
probably why you've
Simon and
not.
Sunita being the creepiest.
Yes, they are very creepy. Actually, maybe it's not the show for you. That's probably why you've
No,
not seen a ventriloquist.
I will
But
be fine.
give it a shot. So I got little Chi Chi and little Pongo. You'll love them because they're really cute. I use someone out the audience as well, and we just have a really good laugh. Now, when I do pantomime, yeah, I've got 5 minutes here. I do 10 minutes there. I got another 5 minutes. They see me for 20 minutes. You
Mm.
get to see me for an hour and a half, and I let rip. You know, I know there's a family audience. It's not naughty, it's not rude, but it's cheeky, you know. But I'm allowed to kind of do whatever I want, and I'm on the whole time. And
Yeah.
I know that a lot of the people that work at the Cliffs Pavilion,
Yes.
they a lot of the staff said they're coming to see me at the Palace. They're coming to support me, so I'm going to know half the audience because I worked with them last Christmas.
That's
I
really
absolutely
lovely.
loved Southend. It was fantastic. So I really can't wait to come back. Just tell you the website and then talk a little bit about the book. So the book
Of
is
course.
called Ventriloquist, and it should be launched in about a year's time in 2027, and it will come out literally a year, 40 years after I started learning. I've interviewed ventriloquists all over the world. You've got everyone from America's Got Talent, all over the world's got talent, from Spain, Italy, ventriloquists from Iceland, all over. And sorry, my dog's going crazy now. It's the timing. But
Okay.
yeah, just found a ball.
Is it a real dog or is it a puppet? No,
She's
it's
real.
real.
She's nowhere near. You can see her now. There she is.
Oh,
She's
bless her.
a spaniel. So the book is my story weaved in and out with all these interviews with Jeff Dunn and Paul Zerd and Nina Conti, a great female ventriloquist in the UK, and it's going to be a big bumper book. Literally, I've been writing it for 20 years. I've been collating uh, photographs and newspaper articles. I've researched and I've interviewed people for literally for 20 years. And then the book, and if you like podcasts as well, I did a podcast in lockdown called Eyes and Teeth, and that's me interviewing loads of people in the variety world, comedians, comedy actors, ventriloquists, singers, magicians, and pantomime stars. And so you could listen to that now. That's wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify or Amazon or Apple or wherever. Yeah, so I've got the book coming out. I got the ventriloquist convention is going to be in Basingstoke in October, the 9th and the 10th of 2027. So I'm literally really celebrating next year. And I'm going on a small UK tour as well, but I'm testing out some stuff this year, next week in Southend, going to do some new stuff along with some old stuff. So everything you can find, Chiana, is on www. That's how they all start, Steve Hewlett ventriloquist.com. And everything is there for my dates. You can contact me, you can book me for your wedding or your parties. your holiday park or your cruise ship. I work wherever you book me. But it really is a good fun to spread smiles around the world and do what I do. It's great fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. That honestly has been one of the most interesting chats I've had with people, and
Oh, bless you. Thank you for
I
having me on. I
actually,
appreciate
I
it.
genuinely, I mean this. I wasn't expecting a ventriloquist chat to be so fascinating, and I mean that with the utmost respect. But honestly, it has really opened my eyes to the way that people interpret and the way that this can have an impact on audiences, young and old. And yeah, I just think it's actually been quite enlightening. So thank you
Oh,
for opening
amazing.
my eyes to, well, and puppetry to
Bless you. Yeah. No, we
to
just want to bring
ventriloquism.
joy to people's lives, like you doing with your show. It's really nice to have conversations and connect with people. But if you can make people laugh, make people smile, and make people remember as well, we create memories. Whether
Absolutely.
it's a pantomime or a show or a radio show that you're doing, because people will now talk about that, and it's nice to connect with someone that doesn't really know my world. But now you might go and see another ventriloquist because of it.
Yeah.
So it really helps us. If I'm doing good work, then another ventriloquist will do good as well. And it's helping the community and keeping keep my ventriloquist convention busy next year as well. So
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, you never know how many ventriloquist patients we might have in Southend Hospital. So,
you never know. There might be a few dummies there as well. And then there's
you
a
never
few.
know. There's enough skeletons for them to practice and use.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, bless them. Well, I wish everybody get well wishes. Thanks you so much for your time. I
Thank you
appreciate
very much indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Take care. All
Thank
the
you.
best. Bye.
Cheers.